there's an injustice, whether it's against you or someone you love or someone you believe in, stand up. Don't sit down. Don't sit down on them, because they need you.
Hey everybody, welcome to Popcorned Planet. I am Andy Signore, and we are live, and we are I can't believe it, day three. Day three. It feels like it's been an eternity already. My God, this has been a lot of work, and I couldn't have done it without these amazing people. So happy to have them here. Alexandra DeFrank's back, psychologist, sexologist. So glad to have her back. It's Kim. Is feeling better. So glad to have you. And look who's here. It's Steph, the altar nerd, and Robin Redbreast, who has been watching with us in the producer's room. Thank you guys all for being here. So we are trying to do a post show after every trial day. It's a lot of work, more than I anticipated, but again, I couldn't do it without these people and so many more in our team who have been helping lift me up, keep me going, tell me, Andy, it's fine, don't worry, we're going to get this right, because I just feel like there's a lot of important stuff to break down in each of these trial days, and I know a lot of you can't sit and watch them all. So I've been getting so much positive feedback and amazing comments, so thank you. It's keeping us going. We will continue to break this trial down for you after every show, so please keep spreading the word. It's starting to get a little complicated where there's so much to go through. I can't clip everything. I'm going to do my best to clip what I think is the most important stuff, and then we're going to play those clips throughout, but I may not be able to give you every witness summary. In fact, I am trying to raise some funds now because I may be hiring an editor just to try and help to push some of this workload out. So just know when we ask for donations, it's going to something right now so I can try to make more ends meet and more content for you. So there's a pinned comment the mods are sharing out there. Please support. Also, before we start to the show, I do want to thank my amazing designer, who the Justice for logos and everything that you've seen out there. We have an amazing... it's in the link tree. Why can't I? No, here it is. There's 2 new shirts. All proceeds are... We're not making money on this one, actually. I'm not trying to proceeds on, but I wanted a Johnny Depp is Innocent shirt. So we just launched a Johnny Depp is Innocent shirt. There's a couple colors. We had some of you requested different colors, as well as our Justice for Johnny logo that my friend Brian at my system, No System made. There's a crew version for women. As we got 6 weeks, if you want to wear one proudly, you can. Proceeds will go to the Tampa Bay Crisis Center, which helps men, women, and children here locally. I like to help support my local crisis center, but I want to make sure you guys had some options if you're looking for it, and I'll be getting them soon, so I'll be wearing them proudly. If you want to get yours soon, going over there, you can also check out all of our merch. If you buy some of the other stuff, then yeah, we get a little bit of profit, but this is more just spreading the word of what we do here in the channel. So thank you, Brian. You rushed those out for me, and I'm excited to wear them proudly. All right, well, today was a big trial day. We're on day 3 of the trial. And it started really with some fireworks, I got to say. There was a very, what's the word? How would you describe Kate James? She was very no nonsense. And you could just tell she didn't want to be there. But like, you know, doing her due diligence and making sure she shared the truth. And I want to start with Kate James because her testimony was fire. This was, to me, defense-shattering testimony that this was a woman that was Amber Heard's assistant. Now, we're getting a lot of defense from Team Amber saying, well, all these people of Johnny are paid on his payroll, blah, 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 blah. This one was paid by Amber. So it's just interesting to learn that all the employees that Johnny had, they're all supporting, they're all loving him, right? They're all nice. And then Amber's assistant is literally talking about how she's been spit upon. This testimony was crazy. I did do a longer video this morning because I thought it was pretty important for you guys to go through. So I don't want to necessarily play it all again. I want to focus on the doctor, the marriage counselor, which we are going to do a lot of details on, which we didn't get to. But I do want to start with Kate and sort of the right away. You could tell she was just frustrated with the Amber's team. They were just like asking her, like, "What do you do?"
Not only to come over for a spot of football, but to fix her flabby ass.
Oh wait, sorry.
That was about Miss Heard, was it not? And on line 14, you answered yes, yes. You see that?
Yes.
I pulled a different clip. Sorry, apologies, but this is the clip where they're trying to say, "Oh my God, you said Amber had a flabby ass." Is this the same Amber that keeps calling Johnny fat and old and everything else? Why on earth are we wasting time? Come on, I got a flabby ass. Like, we're so sensitive now that this is now the offense. Oh my God, Johnny's saying Amber has a flabby ass. I'm guessing Amber said it. Right, or whatever. Like, I'm guessing that's just what happened. And the fact that we're hearing testimony, like, is it true that you said yes when Johnny said, "Hey, come on over, we'll help her flabby ass"? This is literally what they're resorting to in some of this testimony. And Kate wasn't having it.
You did understand this to be referring to Miss Heard, correct?
She's like, yes. She's like, oh, so then you're lying under testimony. He's like,
having no clue what on earth is going on. So there you go. I have no clue.
Was that answer in the court truthful or just agreeable?
Just being agreeable.
So it wasn't truthful? You can answer.
I don't have an answer for you, Mr. Rottenborn.
She just wasn't having it. They were trying to get every little reason to sort of discredit her because she said yes to Johnny. She made it very clear, and I thought it was interesting. As a personal assistant, she's like, look, my job is to be the caretaker. Like, I'm there to, like, take care of people. It's a job. It's not fun to be around these celebrities at that point, right? When you have a job as a personal assistant, it's not always fun, guys. Now, there's some celebrities that manage to make it fun, but you see these celebrities at their worst always, right? And some bosses are good and some bosses are egomaniacs in Hollywood. And it became very clear that Amber Heard was an egomaniac. And it also became clear that Johnny was the nicer of the two, like often going above and beyond to like help her son. And the irony here, for people, they didn't talk about this, but Kate James is the same person, which you guys may not know. When she had a child, Amber used her child as a prop in press opportunities to go out there and make herself look better. You can go find that deep into the Depp archives of all of us looking things out. Do any of you guys remember that? Do you remember that, Alexandra? That Kate was using, that Amber was using Kate's baby as a prop? There's so much Kate didn't talk about, including the fact that she stole her Survivor story. Guys, I can't even show you the headline. It's brutal. It's brutal. In fact, I'm just going to paste it. Please cue this. Save it for later. It's in the chat. Go read that on your own later because I can't have these keywords popping up at the beginning of the stream because then we'll never get it seen. But it's a horrific story that personal story Kate had. And Amber used the details of that to try to tell her own, saying, well, I went through this similar situation. And it's awful. This came out through the UK trial, and I was surprised it didn't come up here, but also sort of showed that they're trying to be more focused on where they're going, and they really just tried to stay on the credibility of Amber. And what was most interesting through that piece, as we go through Kate's claims,
I had to go through a loan modification.
there was a very funny clip. You can watch it again. You can watch the full highlights of Kate on the first video I posted today. So I do implore you take some time to watch that. But there was a very funny exchange where she's like, yeah, well, you were getting paid. And Kate goes, not well. And then he's like, well, you were making, what, $1,500 a week? She's like, what? No, I wasn't making that. It was just, again, the defense just stumbling over, never being actually prepared and understanding what was happening. And it just worked in Johnny's favor tremendously because you could tell. I didn't get the vibe she was bitter, like disgruntled. Did you guys? I want to ask you. Let me ask you that first because there's an argument here that she's a disgruntled employee. She's going to be pissed. But, you know, I've dealt with a lot of them. I know those types. And I feel like the disgruntled employee is very quick to point those things out on their own, right? To just go off on a rant about somebody of like, oh, you'll never believe when she did this to me, or, oh God, Andy was the worst because he'd always do this, or da-da-da-da-da. Like, she was very just, you could tell, didn't really want to get into any of it. She just was just, when pressed, got annoyed. Alexandra, as a people person, did you get that sense too? Did you feel like she was just a bitter, disgruntled person that we should not find credible?
Not at all. Actually, the opposite. There is one moment when she's asked about this directly and her voice breaks and then she cleans one tear. So I honestly think she was actually sad that she lost contact with her after giving so much. This is my impression, to be honest.
Sorry, as I'm getting information, even as we're live. I got the vibe that exactly I felt she was very credible. I guess that's the bottom line here. Rest of the panel, I know Steph, you're sort of watching as more the viewer today, but for Robin and Kim that you watched, did you find her testimony credible?
Yes, I felt like she was just annoyed. I honestly felt like maybe it's just one of those things like this happened so long ago and it's still going and I hated working for her and it was awful and I just want this to be over. That was the vibe I got from her very strongly.
Yeah, and look who just joined us. So happy to have him. Christopher Melcher is here. What's up, sir?
Hey, Eddie. Nice to be here.
Well,
Mr. Melcher.
You get to offer some legal commentary as we go through this, and we're talking about Kate James. Did you get to watch my recap on The Assistant?
I didn't. I saw the excerpts, but I didn't get to see the recap.
Okay, so we're going to play a little bit more. In fact, I want to play the first clip. Sorry, guys. Bear with me 1 second. I thought I had it here, and I do, but I'm trying my best. Hold on. Where did I put the first one? Where she said that. Kate James. Hold on, I thought I had it. I don't seem to have it. Oh, here it is. Thank you.
What were your job duties?
Too many to mention.
Give me your best summary of what your job duties were, please.
Now, this is Amber's attorney questioning her.
Is this relevant? Okay, so let's see. I mean, if you are ready for a really, really long time of me explaining all of the details, that's fine. It's everything you could possibly do to run someone's life, okay? So it is grocery shopping. It is taking care of admin. It is running errands. It is getting the car fixed. It is getting the dogs groomed. It is picking up flowers. It is dealing with the decorator. It is dealing with the housekeeper. It is going on and on and on and on, and it goes on every single day. Arranging travel, dealing with all of the surplus staff around the travel, booking all the greeters.
So
dealing with
she
the
knows what
changing
she's talking about in Amber's
okay?
life, is what she's
Liaising
now
with
said.
people that she's working with on films, updating her calendar accordingly, liaising with the people on set every single day to update her calendar to ensure that she knows what scene she's doing each day, what her call time is. Every day it's something different. But it's a lot, it's a myriad of things that go across the board daily.
You were paid for that work, correct?
Very poorly.
I mean, you couldn't have written that. Boom. And then he goes worse as he's like, all right, but you were paid for the work,
What
right?
were you paid?
And he guesses. He guesses wrong.
$1,500 a week to start?
Kidding?
Is that what?
I wish, my God. No, it was not. She paid me $25 an hour to start off with, and she finally agreed after screaming abuse at me that she would pay me $50,000 a year once I went to full-time. And this was after me working for well over 10 years as a personal assistant. So it was very insulting to me, but I did it anyway because I had grandfathered in the ability to pick up my son from school and bring him to work with me at 3 o'clock.
Now, they do this, and they bring up this example of on a Sunday you were there, and he's like, yeah, but that you were getting paid that day. She's like, no, that was overtime. I wasn't getting paid for overtime. And he's like, yeah, but you were getting food, right? Did you order some food that day? She's like, no. She's like, I guess my son did. He bought some food. And she's like, yeah, but that was on Amber's tab, correct? He's like, no. She's like, Johnny, that was on Johnny's tab. So I feel like it all just was a face plant in this beginning of the setup of Kate. And I'm curious, Christopher, so when a witness like that comes on board, she's gonna now, you can just tell she's seething in frustration with Amber, but she's not bringing it out. I was trying to tell everybody I bought it more because it didn't feel like she was the disgruntled employee that's out there like, oh, Christopher's the worst because he does this, and oh my God, have you heard when Christopher, like, usually my experience with the bad disgruntled employees is they're very quick to speak, negatively. I felt like she was pissed, didn't want to be there, and reserved, and quickly retorting when she can. Do you feel like that helps or hurts a witness credibility, Christopher?
Well, it doesn't help. I mean, she's entertaining to watch. You could see she's seething. She probably very competent at what she does, but you're going to have to take with a grain of salt anything she's going to say about Amber now, because she's upset about the circumstances. So generally, we like to see witnesses come in a little cooler than this.
So a little too hot for you. Okay.
Week thing with flexibility and blah blah blah. So, I thought it's not really in my caliber. I would then store in her garage.
So she shares a story of how Amber berated her because she had to keep 2 copies of every magazine and hide it in the garage so Johnny didn't see it. And one day when she didn't hide it properly, Amber became...
Did she tell you why she didn't want Mr. Depp to see them?
No, she just got very angry with me one day because I hadn't quite made it downstairs to put them in the garage when she came home, and she went absolutely ballistic over that. Screaming, yelling, abuse, blind rage.
Were you ever with
blind rage?
Getting dressed or undressing?
And then she goes and talks about she saw her undressed a lot.
Was it just when Miss Heard was in fittings that you would see her in states of undress?
No, it was also in her apartment. She had no issue with walking around naked quite often.
So she shares the fact, I'm just refreshing so we can get there, but she shares the fact that she never wears makeup. She acknowledges this. She's like, yeah, she'd put makeup from time to time on when she had a show or a big appearance, but otherwise she really didn't wear makeup or be very minimal, wasn't thick coating. And then she's like, all right, well, since you've seen her naked walking around a lot, did you ever see anything? And she said, no. No bruises, no scrapes, no hair clumps, all the things that Amber keeps saying. She never saw any of it at any point throughout the long time she worked there. And then they press her like, well, how would you know you weren't there through the...
What do you mean by that?
He didn't like being away from his physical presence.
Other than telling you she felt insecure.
She also talks about her insecurities. She didn't like being around from Johnny. She said Johnny was not jealous, but there was...
While you worked for Mr.
This was interesting.
For, which was in fact approximately half of my regular annual salary. I was offering her that as a favor, and she felt that gave her the right to spit in my face. And there was a witness in the apartment at that time, by the way. The handyman Hector Galindo, he was so mortified. He was so embarrassed to hear her speaking to me like that.
And then she goes and laughs about it.
Miss James, while you worked for Miss Heard, did you ever observe her drinking alcohol?
She then goes on and says, yes, she drank a lot. She had prescription meds that made her have episodes. All the, abuse that we're talking about with Johnny, she witnessed it all. She doesn't really volunteer, when asked, she answers. And then at the very end acknowledges that.
Would Miss Heard's treatment of you change when she was intoxicated?
Yes.
How so?
She became more and more belligerent and abusive.
So she came more, and then there was a moment also where she says, well, they're like, well, how could you know there was an abuse if you didn't see it? She's like, well, I saw the outcome. I would see the outcome of it. I was with her all day. I would see the damage if there was damage. I would see the remarks if there were marks. There was never anything through my whole history. So through that testimony, it was pretty damning. I guess it comes down to the credibility of you. Do you believe her? But to see someone on Amber's payroll come in turn, I want to go to you first, Christopher, then I'll go to the rest of you. How do you think? I thought that was a pretty much shattering moment again, and a win for the defense to get this credible witness who's on Amber's side to basically just torch all the things they have already been planning. Christopher, does that help?
Yeah, well, sure. I think a lot of this in our human decision making when you're on a jury is who do you like and who do you hate. So this assistant here seems very competent, very sharp, and I'm sure is telling the truth and makes Amber look really bad. Also noticing that Amber's wearing a lot of makeup. I don't recall seeing that much makeup in other settings, so I don't know if that's being done for purposes of the case, since there's so much focus on this makeup question.
Rest of the panel there, anybody else have a thought on that? Did you find her pretty credible as I did?
I did. So I caught a little bit of this whilst I was working my normal straight day job. And what I kind of felt with her, firstly, sassy as hell, spirit animal, absolutely adore her. Yep. But it's in terms of like the language that she was using, all I heard was facts in the sense of this is what in my job I did X, Y, and Z. In this incident, she spat in my face, and there is a witness here that I can name, Hector. What's it? Sorry, not good with names. She never wore makeup, it was very rare that she wore makeup, and she had this thing where I had to keep two magazines of the same thing but hide them from Johnny. She was saying factual things, and in none of it did she use any what's termed as like ad hominem attacks, which is attacking Amber's character. She's just explaining and describing the situations that happened, which to me lends her to be more credible rather than like a disgruntled employee. A disgruntled employee would turn around, in my opinion, conspiracy, and be like, oh, she's a what's it this and she's a what's it that. But there was none of that whatsoever. She kept it factual, and she kept it in terms of like descriptive what happened in terms of describing the situation, and that's it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I got.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it sounds like most, as I posted, a lot of the comments and people on Twitter seem to be on her side. So that was the opening. It was a pretty damning opening. You can watch that whole clip. There's more there to go through. It didn't seem like it was the best opening. Now, things took a turn when the therapist came on. So there was a therapist. Well, I'm sorry. Do you guys remember her name? Looking at my notes quickly. Her name was Laurel Anderson, clinical psychologist, marriage counselor for psychotherapy, for I guess 40 years of experience. And so the therapist came in, and yeah, I've seen a lot of headlines already sort of taking the thing of the counselor basically said out loud, and this was Johnny's team showed all this. So I'm curious, Christopher, why you think they did it? Maybe to get ahead of it because they thought Amber's might. But the doctor did say at one point, oh yeah, there was mutual abuse. Now, I want to go through these clips, and I want to talk specifically with Alexandra as well, because there's a lot to break down here, because it's very revealing, I think, in both ways. And I do think we have to be objective here and listen to what was said. When I first heard it, I was like, well, wait, what? But then I think if you actually paid attention and caught the second half of it, there was an answer to me of like, oh, well, hold on. That actually came from Amber herself in a private session that the doctor also admitted, well, I never saw it. I can't prove it. That's what Amber said. So I want to play these clips because I think this portion is going to require a longer conversation, and I do think it's important we cover it. I also expect this conversation may completely yellow us, so limit this video because now we're going to get into some more specifics that YouTube algorithm, these words don't like. So please make sure you share and help us get the word out. But they're talking about what kind of issues, this is the doctor explain, like what kind of issues did Johnny Depp have during the therapy counseling?
Having in the sessions.
Having a voice.
What do you mean by that?
Ms. Heard had a jackhammer style of talking. She was very amped up. He had trouble talking at a similar pace. Their dialogue, he was cut off a lot. So I'm guessing this is what I'm not sure what it is, but there was something. Anyhow, this is how he didn't have a voice. He couldn't keep up with her rapid fire way of conversation. And so he was really overwhelmed.
In working with Amber and Mr. Depp, did Amber ever report to you any physical violence on behalf of Mr. Depp toward Amber?
Yes.
Do you recall seeing photos from...
I didn't clip that, by the way. That was the defense's clip.
Amber Heard?
I have, but I don't remember when I saw them.
What do you recall about the photos?
Her face was bruised.
Do you recall where on Amber's face you saw bruises?
I think they were around her eyes, but I couldn't be positive.
Did you witness abuse by either?
I didn't witness.
While Mr. Depp may have said he wasn't violent with any of his other partners, there was violence from Mr. Depp toward Amber, correct?
Yes, you're right.
Now that quote has been taken out of context. We're going to come back to it.
He had been well controlled, I think, for almost, 20, 30 years. And both were victims of abuse in their homes. But I thought he had been well controlled for decades. And then with Ms. Heard, he was triggered, and they engaged in what I saw as mutual abuse.
Now, that's the quote that's being used, and the media has jumped into, is they engaged in multiple abuse. Now, that can mean a lot of things, verbal, physical, etc. But she did also just admit that, oh yeah. So I want to keep playing to sort of get to the gist of it, because I think it's important you do hear the context.
Sometimes, I know she led on more than one occasion and started it to keep him with her, because abandonment and having him leave was her worst nightmare. And I think he may have initiated it on occasions too, that I'm less sure on.
And how did you come to the understanding that on some occasions Ms. Heard physically abused Mr. Depp?
Ms. Heard reported that.
What did Ms. Heard report to you?
That it was a point of pride, two things. It was a point of pride to her if she felt disrespected to initiate a fight, and her father had beaten her, she was not going to. And the second...
I didn't trim that. That was the edit. But it was a point of pride for her to attack first, is what the gist of that was, to make sure you didn't miss that, because that was important to hear.
The second one is what she reported to me, which is if he was going to leave her to de-escalate from the fight, she would strike him to keep him there. She would rather be in a fight than have him leave.
She would strike him to not leave. So acknowledging she's the aggressor, all of that accurate. I mean, what she's saying was accurate in what we said in the beginning of the opening.
No one likes you.
The opening testimony that Johnny's team, I said.
Getting fame for me, falling out of love with you, whore. Jay is Johnny Depp?
Yes, but that was said by Ms. Heard.
So is it fair to say that Ms. Heard was saying that Johnny said to her, no one likes you, you're getting fame from me, I'm falling out of love with you, whore? That would have come from Mr. Depp, is that correct?
Ms. Heard reported that that's what Mr. Depp said to her at their worst.
Now, that was at the worst. So Miss Amber's at the worst telling us that the worst he said was things like that of, you're using me for the fame, you're only here for that, etc. Whore. And that was at the worst, and that's what she would say, he would say. He didn't confirm that.
Did Amber, when Mr. Depp told you that Amber had hit him in the jaw, did Amber respond in any way? Did she deny it? Did she admit it?
I don't think she denied it.
So again, she hit him in the jaw. She didn't deny it. Important you hear those things too.
But what I believe from my notes was that she galloped off in a new direction, and they continued to talk, and there was no more that Johnny Depp was going to say about what he was reporting. It was more that they started into a fight. And I wrote that their process is a back and forth firing at each other. At that point, he had some energy. And they don't communicate. They have terrible skills.
So important there to mention again, and that sounds just like we heard on the audio tapes, Alexandra, of whenever Johnny is like, why do you do this to me? Why do you hit me? She will then distract and, like she said, sort of try to change the subject so she doesn't have to take the accountability of the parts that she does. But again, I'm hung up on this, like, well, what, did Johnny hit her?
At any point during the first session, did Ms. Heard interrupt Mr. Depp when he was trying to talk?
Yes, she talked over him. She had rapid fire talking.
Did she interrupt him during your other sessions that are reflected in Plaintiff's Exhibit 2?
Yes, and I pointed out the process to her at some point, and she got it, that no one could actually have a decent dialogue with her if she was rapid firing and talking over and just barraging. It was a process issue.
So is it fair to say that you met alone with Amber for 2 1/3 hours in the context of the couples therapy? Is that correct?
This is her reporting to me. It's the only thing in this clinical session that apparently was about physical abuse, or else it would not have been redacted out. So when she said, in terms of physical abuse, that he hits her, a no closed fist means an open hand slap to me. And she says that she hits back, and now she starts it and sometimes hits him first because her history is having been violated by her father physically. And just out of pride, if she's, a lot of things trigger her. And if she's triggered, she would hit him first.
When you said
now, that's important. They're going to go more, but Alexander, I want to make sure we come back to that. So help me remember. Very clear that the way I'm gathering this now is trying to be as objective as possible. The therapist is getting this mindset that they're both mutually abusive because Amber's telling her that, and so Amber's telling her this while saying, yeah, he uses an open fit, whatever. The problem is still the credibility of Amber, right? Because it's like, if Amber's going to lie as much as she's lied and everything else, she could be lying to this therapist, right? It's very possible. So it's still like not proof that he did it. It's just her hearsay based on what Amber's telling. And it's the therapist's job to trust their clients, right? So of course that's where this would come from, I would think. Christopher, you want to say something?
Yeah, I'm really surprised that this was submitted as evidence because we like you say, it's hearsay. We're as witnesses, we can testify as to things that we observed or sensed personally, directly. And so she wasn't there during any interactions between these two parties other than the joint therapy session. So she can testify what she was told or observed during a joint therapy session. But what happened outside of her presence is based solely on what she was told. And so the questions are really imprecise. I would have much preferred to say, the question to say, did Amber tell you this? What did she tell you? Fine. Rather than we're hearing, oh, yeah, Johnny was abusive. Well, what is that? Is that based on her understanding of what Amber told her? Is that based on what Johnny told her? Is this just an opinion? Is this speculation? That should have never got before the jury.
Yeah, and to be clear, I'm confused who's actually interviewing her. Whoever is to me not doing the best job. I concur, and the way they've clipped this and put that out there, it's very confusing, and it doesn't seem like it's very good news for Johnny. We're going to come to you, Alexander. I want to go straight to you, but let me just finish out the last minute here because they follow up a question.
Said that she sometimes hits Johnny first because of pride. What did you mean?
She was sensitive to feeling disrespected. And a number of other things. And so And if she felt disrespected, she had come out of her background history feeling that her pride needed to dominate, and she needed to stand up for herself.
When Ms. Heard told you that Johnny Depp hits her or slaps her, Johnny Depp was not present, correct?
Correct.
Did Ms. Heard tell you that she socked Mr. Depp?
Yes. She was describing kind of the progression of the physical violence.
Did you have any understanding of what she meant when she admitted that she socks Mr. Depp?
Yes, because there were 3 lines above this that explained the progression a bit, and I've already said what it was. She felt she had to hit him back if he hit her, and so she always did. And
again, that entry is from a session where Mr. Depp was not physically present, correct?
That's right.
Okay.
And it's important to reiterate again, she makes it very clear she never witnessed anything. It was merely what they said. So I want to go to you, Alexander, because I see a lot of headlines now jumping, yep, mutually abusive, doctor admits that Johnny did it. But as Christopher even said, really weird testimony that I was shocked it was even allowed because it's hearsay. It's not proof that the doctor knows it. It's just what Amber has told. And Amber's told everybody this, including through the op-ed piece. So to me, again, I'm not trying to be a Johnny stan ignoring the evidence here. When I heard it at first, I got worried because I was like, well, wait a second. What does that mean? And as we progressed with the interview, I realized, oh, she's just saying, well, that's what Amber told me. Because, Johnny wasn't there to defend himself in that conversation. Alexandra, when you heard all this, what was your response? What was your insight from a psychologist standpoint?
Well, the first thing, actually, I have a question for Christopher, because here in Poland, usually psychotherapists don't appear, even if there's, if I'm subpoenaed, I need to appear in the court. But I can say, I'm sorry, but my, medical privilege doesn't allow me to speak. And then, because I had the situation, both parties from the couples therapy, they will be asked by the judge, are you allowing this person to speak? And if one says no, then I leave. So my question to you, Christopher, is why even this psychotherapist was there?
Yeah, that's an excellent point. And the rules are the same in California, where this therapist treated the couple or met with them. And so there is a privilege that applies to any of these communications. And so they would either have to consent to the therapist testifying. There's also an exception in the law that when a party places their mental state in evidence in a case by making a claim that they've suffered emotional distress, then the other side who's being sued has the right then to go into some of this information. They are making claims against each other. I can't recall if those claims include emotional distress damages suffered as a result of the defamatory comments that were made. If so, there could be a waiver there. But surely the attorneys would have had to have worked all that out and assured this therapist that she has the legal right to speak. Otherwise, you're absolutely correct. All she can say is, off limits and object.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That was my first thought, right?
It's a great question too, because it's why they had to have, it's very strange. They had to have approved, and we were sort of texting. I've been asking some others, but there's a part of it is almost like they kind of have to at this point. Because there's maybe parts of this case and testimony that are going to come out regardless, and this sort of helps it, and it sort of negates them, maybe, is what the thinking is. I don't know, but in hearing the testimony, a good question, because it was pretty devastating to listen to all this private stuff that should be none of our damn business, and frustrating because it was hearsay that I was shocked she was reacting. But so back to the clips that you've heard and the relationship stuff you're hearing. Did this make you think less of Depp in any way? Did this make you worried? What was your takeaway when you heard the clip?
The first part, actually my first impression, but this is because I work completely different. It was actually why they are meeting like this, talking about someone without this person present when it's couples therapy. That kind of red flag for me. That was a red, alarm for me personally. And usually because sometimes I do have individual sessions with the partners and later I have a session with them. But usually this is to gather private information from their background or to check if everything is fine, if I'm suspicious about something. But later on, I will, in the next conjoined session, I will actually face that and I will talk about those things with both the being present. And I will never say things like this happened. I will say like this person told me this happened. Or I will mention my own personal observations, like I observe that this person is in distress, or I observe that, right? So the first part, when it was about all the things that Amber said, that kept me worried, like, okay, but Johnny's not here to defend himself. But luckily, then she mentioned that in the conjoined sessions, when they were together, he will mention something that happened, and then Amber will just, as she does, as people that they have this personality, they will immediately switch to something else. So that was her strategy. So also my concern, obviously, I have no idea how the sessions look like, but usually, for example, for me, when this happens, I immediately stop it because I try to make it fair play. I always try to divide the time 50-50, so both parties have the chance to explain themselves and say what's going on. So I wonder what was happening there. And then, well, I think, Andy, if you could play from her deposition.
Yep. What number?
From the moment 3:14 in your time, 3:14, 3 hours 14 minutes.
Okay, 1 second.
I think that part is like very, very important.
3 hour and 14 seconds.
14.
All right,
Yeah.
bear with us, guys. 1 second. Boom. It's a 8-hour clip, so it takes a while. 3:14. Oh wow, our time code's almost exact. Look at that. 3:14 with 3:14. Boo! Nice work,
Skills.
Steph. 3:14. Here we go.
The relationship is not good.
Sooner?
It's over pretty much. And he's trying to come to terms with it. And he still loves her and is mourning. So he's a very articulate man. And when left alone to speak, he can describe intelligently what's going on. I think while he's talking, and I'm not trying to be obtrusive with my taking notes, I'm listening, I'm talking, but I'm also copying down a word here and there. So my belief is that those are his words.
And Mr. Depp, I think you testified about
Do you need me to play those
I just
words?
want to make sure it's clear. Mr. Depp
Yes.
told you.
Hold on. Sorry, I went back too far.
Let it
You can turn to
go.
page 13. In the blue, where it says, was chaotic, violent, do you know what Mr. Depp was referring to there?
What I said previously, and I'll say it again, he's kind of doing a retrospective of trying to understand the relationship, and is characterizing it as chaotic and violent, but she gave as good as she got, and she started it, but he's complaining, but he's also just kind of describing what the relationship was. His mother is dead at this point. The relationship is not good. It's over pretty much, and he's trying to come to terms with it, and he still loves her and is mourning. So he's a very articulate man, and when left alone to speak, he can describe intelligently what's going on. I think while he's talking, and I'm not trying to be obtrusive with my taking notes, I'm listening, I'm talking, but I'm also copying down a word here and there. So my belief is that those are his words.
And Mr. Depp, I think you testified about this, but I just want to make sure it's clear. Mr. Depp told you Amber gave as good as she got, correct?
Correct.
Did you ask what Mr. Depp meant by gave as good as she got?
I was pretty aware of what he meant. I agreed.
What did you understand Mr. Depp to mean?
All right, I have. She initiated fights. She started violence. She rose to the challenge if he started first, so she, in my opinion, that had been established throughout the relationship. that she fought as hard as he did, and he tried to de-escalate far more than I think she did.
Do you know, did Mr. Depp talk about his fingertip with
yeah,
you?
Go ahead.
before
Why is it
June
important to you?
18th?
Good clip, but yeah, go ahead. What's your thoughts on that clip?
Well, because, you know, usually you can tell, you can say, you can give your testimony of what you actually witnessed, right? And having that individual session with Johnny, she noticed him this way, right? And having her, she noticed her completely different. She noticed her, you know, like enraged and stuff like this. And when they were both together, she also noticed her interrupting, her fighting, her actually admitting to being the person that initiated the fights. And when he said something, when he reported something that happened that she did, she didn't deny it, but she changed the subject. So this is what the therapist observed. So based on that observation, because she doesn't know what was happening at home, I think the testimony would be valid based on that part. Like, I see this was happening. She was enraged. He was withdrawing. She will be triggered when he will be splitting. He will be leaving because she has abandonment issues. So she will be triggering. She will prefer for him to stay and fight instead of leaving.
Right.
And she will say that trigger is something that makes her to strike. And she even said that if he leaves, then she will fight. So all those things were said when both were there, and all those behaviors she witnessed. That part, like, how to say, the interaction between them, we could say the clash between them, her becoming enraged and as she uses the word, fast-fired, and him trying to de-escalate. This is something she witnessed. So this is the profile we have of them as a couple.
Right, and so again, when you hear when people are, and I'm trying to find the link. It was a People magazine, like, oh, they're mutually abusive. Like, do you feel like this, gives Amber the ammo she needs? Of like, well, yeah, see, the doctor says Johnny's as guilty. When you hear it now and you've seen the clip in context, what is your take?
Well, my take is that she's caught once again on a lie, because right now she even told the couples therapist that she will hit Johnny every time. And in her testimony, in her deposition, when she's wearing that white shirt, she said she only did it once to defend her baby sister. So she's caught in a lie once again.
Right. So she's done it multiple times. So if we're going to believe the doctor, then they're both right. You're right. If you want to believe the doctor, then you got to believe that Amber's lying because she's only said it once. Her story has changed so many times. Who do we believe? Right, is what the reality is. And as the doctor said, I didn't witness it. I'm just telling you that's what it sense. And when she says mutually abusive, that could just be verbally and the fighting they're doing back and forth, which it sounds like there was a lot, right? Johnny's had to deal and fight back with her constant. It was that's another word of definition for abusive in your mind, correct?
Yes, she used the word abusive. I don't know what she was referring to. When I talk about like very unhealthy dynamics, for example, me personally, I use the word toxic. Like, this is toxic, this is not healthy, like to make it powerful. But for example, me personally, I use the word abuse only when it's about DV or S abuse. I don't talk about abuse when it's emotional or verbal, unless how to say this? I'm giving them the psychoeducation when I'm saying, like, being emotionally. I'm explaining what is emotional abuse or what is psychological abuse, what's manipulation. Then I will use that word, but usually I will use more frequently the word toxic if I see a very unhealthy dynamic between two people.
Well, and there's one other thing I want to mention, and I get all you guys back in, but it's also very important that we say, right? The headline in question of the defamation, and Christopher, I'm going to come to you next because I want to hear, I stood up against SV and I faced the wrath. Now, when you click on that, there it is. And I'm not paying the Washington Post. Sorry, guys. If someone wants to give me a password, let me know. But I stood up against the SV and felt its wrath. This is the defamation in question. And what's very weird to me is throughout that whole couple session, you're telling me this never came up? Like, I'm sorry. I know all victims are different. We can't generalize, right, Alexandra? But wait a second. Wouldn't this be something that would be brought up in this case, not flippantly in a headline of a Washington Post? Does that surprise you?
Me, I will personally ask my patient because I will want to know what I'm dealing with. So I will ask my patient and look for the reaction. And if the patient doesn't respond with yes, I will write it down with a huge question mark. This is me. This is how I work. Obviously, that therapist has her own style, and maybe she had these concerns if she had, or maybe she didn't because she was never suspicious of it. But the fact that this didn't come in the therapy, and the fact that it didn't come, I remember. I will tell you one thing. I remember when she divorced. She put that claim about DV. And then I saw her connected with Me Too movement. I remember my conversation with my friends saying like, how much you want to bet that she's going to create that S story because the Me Too movement is about S, not DV.
Right.
So, ta-da!
And she did. Well, Christopher, I know you have a question, Steph. I'm going to come to you in a second, but Christopher, we have a couple questions. But Christopher, the headline, the defamation charge itself is SV. Sorry, I'm speaking in code, guys. I hope you know what I'm talking about. Look up her op-ed headline. You'll see it. That's a different thing than she's been accusing. That's a different thing that she's alleging in these sessions, etc. Do you think that definition will come into play from the lawyers, and do you think that'll get her in trouble, that it was never brought up in these sessions?
Well, yeah. So we have to go back to this op-ed, and I have it up on my screen because this is what the whole case is about. And so Johnny has to prove that whatever Amber said in this op-ed piece in the Washington Post was, number one, about him, and number two, was false, and number three, was done with malice, meaning intent to harm, knowing that the statement was false. So on the first question, this issue here, she makes a lot of statements in this op-ed piece, and she's talking about being harassed when she was very young. And the SV part comes in, she says, by the time I was of college age. And then she says 2 years after that, I became a public figure representing DV and felt the wrath against women who spoke out. So the way I'm reading this is she's talking about SV in the context of college-aged years, then 2 years later, dealing with probably Johnny. So I don't know the timeline of the relationship that well and when she was college of years, but there is some ambiguity there, whether she's talking about SV at the hands of somebody other than Johnny.
That's interesting because I'm thank you for keeping it honest, but like when I see it 2 years ago, right, as she mentions throughout the thing, it's hard to not just assume and connect Johnny as the perpetrator, given that she filed the restraining order, et cetera, and she doesn't actually specify. I guess interesting that maybe they'll do that. Well, this was a different age, but is there part of the defamation? Could we assume that the general public is going to say, well, sure, okay, but you could have been more specific because of the year, the dates you placed, the person you're with, the person you put the restraining orders.
Yep.
You needed to be more careful in how you were vague about this.
Well, that's it. So the jury's going to see this statement and dissect it like any of us can. Amber's going to be on the stand to answer questions exactly like that. Who exactly were you referring to? Who SV'd you in college? She's got to name the person or describe the circumstances to show that she wasn't talking about Johnny. Now, what she, in her own mind, was trying to say is not necessarily the end of the analysis. It's what would a reasonable reader conclude based on looking at this. And that's up for the jury to determine. Was she talking about Johnny or not? So there's a problem there. But the larger issue for Johnny is that, this case is not about whether he was abusive towards her strictly or not. The question is whether her statement was about him and whether it was false.
Right.
That's what the jury has to decide. And so he's clearly, based on this testimony that we heard from the therapist, and then we heard a little bit from the concierge doctor Kipper, I don't think he's walking out of this trial with a finding that he was never abusive towards her. I mean, we have the joint therapist saying for whatever reason that got into evidence.
Right.
And mutually abusive means both of them, which would include Johnny was abusive towards her. That's the evidence that the jury just heard. So his team has to be very careful about this and to flip it back to this op-ed piece and saying, look, Amber, what was false about her statement was that she portrayed herself as a victim, totally innocent, who played no part in any kind of thing that happened to her. She was a victim. And that's not true based on the evidence that we're hearing. She was the dominant aggressor, according to the therapist. So they have to be very careful to nuance that in the eyes of the jury. Otherwise, they're going to say, well, hey, we heard mutually abusive, game over. No, it's that she was portraying herself as a victim that Johnny's hands that she played no part in. And that is clearly false.
Interesting. All right, and one thing before I get to you, Steph, I have other sources and people messaging me, and another Depp researcher wanted to make it clear what the marriage counselor reports observing does not match Amber's allegations of those sustained injuries, I guess in previous depositions, etc. So we may find maybe that was part of the reason that was entered too, Christopher, is we will get different versions of the story that she's told. So again, we're still early in this. Let's not assume anything right away. We got a narrative that's still being placed by Johnny's team. We'll get there. Steph, I know you had a question for Mr. Melcher. What did you want to ask?
Yeah. So, Mr. Melcher, the kind of like thing that I think maybe is missing, because I'm not hearing people talk about this, is that as part of their divorce settlement, right, they're getting this $7 million and donating it to charity and everything else. Part of that was do not talk about each other. You stay stum. You don't allude to each other. You don't talk about each other. You just move on. Keep my name out of your damn mouth, and I'll keep your name out of my damn mouth. Kind of like a Will Smith kind of moment-ish. But this is kind of the thing that I'm seeing here. Why isn't he going along the lines of as well, kind of like a breach of contract situation? Because she signed that divorce settlement to say, I'm going to keep your name out of my mouth. I'm not going to allude to you. I'm not going to say anything publicly. Give me the $7 million so I can donate it to charity. Yet here we've got a situation where, allegedly, whatever, I think she's alluding to Johnny in public, completely going against what she agreed to in the divorce settlement. So why isn't like this breach of contract kind of issue coming up?
Yeah, I love that. And I'm looking at his complaint, and he's got, 2 counts of abuse. I'm trying to see if he alleged a breach of contract, count 3 defamation. So, there's no breach of contract cause of action. And that's exactly what it would be if they entered into a contract saying they're not going to disparage each other, and then she violated it. He would be suing for that. So I don't see that in there. I don't know, why. And I think I heard early on that Amber actually brought a claim against Johnny for disparaging her after they entered into the settlement.
There's a counterclaim. Yes, there's a counterclaim, which is now she's got to prove that. Yeah, it's a whole. I'll get you that information so we do not get too down the wormhole. But yeah, they signed a settlement. She wasn't supposed to talk about it. We have caught her and the ACLU, where all this gets even more sinister. The ACLU helped to write that op-ed piece right as they were naming her the advocate, and they were the ones who actually put it all together. There's emails where they're like, are we allowed to say this? Is this too close to Johnny? Is this not close to Johnny? All that's come out. So it's the op-ed's clearly about Johnny, so it is a breach of contract. But I think this was more about. It's not about you're not allowed to talk about me. It's more about this isn't true. I think is what Johnny's really worried about. It's not about the money. She doesn't have any money. She has his money, I guess, right? Because that's what the breach of contract would prove. I think the real fight that he's doing here, obviously, is he wants the truth out there that that's a lie, and that's where we're currently having this fight for. So. Yeah, interesting. I'm glad you looked it up. I don't know. We can look more into that. If anybody in the audience has more thoughts on that, please let us know. I'll get to all your comments in a second. I do try to keep the show within an hour 20. So we'll come back and talk about this more with the panel and Christopher. And if you need to bail, understood. But while I have you, there was one other moment I do want to make sure we talk about, because there was courtroom mayhem, as I promised in the title. And at this point, there's a point here where we'll see Eve Fartlow. I'm sorry, Eve Bartlow. Didn't mean to use that name, Eve. My apologies. But you're going to notice here in a second, as we go through here, she's scanning the internet, and she notices something. Now, this was during the testimony of Georgina. I'm sorry, I can't remember her last name. But here it is. Eve pays the attention, tells her... I hope I'm there. It's pulling the right exact moment. There's a moment here where then they sort of pass each other notes. Amber passes a note. Is Amber allowed to pass notes to everybody? There was. Is Amber, as the litigator, allowed to sit up there and pass a note to the people behind her? Is that against the rules, Christopher?
So Amber certainly can communicate with her counsel. Generally should not be communicating with people other than her counsel, just as a matter of decorum, because that interrupts the proceedings. So I don't know, why she would be doing that. The bailiff should be looking out for that.
So this person right here, I'm circling, the one in the who just looked sideways, that's Eve, who's her friend. She's a journalist. She's on Twitter. She's tweeting about the case often. She's not a legal person at all, but I guess as a legal counsel, you can have people you are part of your team sit back there on laptops passing notes. That's not breaking any rules.
Well, if they're part of the legal team, then absolutely they can communicate, and they're expected to do that to do their job.
If you're doing a legal case, could you just bring me on to be part of your legal team?
Yeah.
So that answers the questions. That is a similar. I can't think of anything more similar. But there you go. So she's not in the
there's
wrong,
that,
then.
but there's also issues of communicating with a witness. So the court made clear, and we saw from that other witness's testimony that was stricken, that witnesses are not supposed to be observing what other witnesses are saying. It's an exclusion order. So there are some limits on what you can do. But I think that generally speaking, there would have to be, like I say, I don't know what the rules of that courtroom are. And but generally speaking, somebody sitting behind the bar in the audience with the members of the public, notes should not be passed back and forth. That is generally not allowed.
So it is questionable. Okay, so
Please repeat it one more time.
Of course.
So this was Georgina, her friend. To be perfectly honest, not the best witness, if we're being honest.
Everyone,
incredibly nervous. So the note was passed by Eve. There's a note by Amber.
Yeah.
This is the note that passed over. Now the attorney has it.
Okay. Just briefly, can you sketch out for us in a little more detail?
They're reading the notes that have been passed.
How you came to take MDMA on that at the wedding?
He's double checking with Eve and this other lady who I don't know who that is.
It was
Chad, if you
evening
know who that
time.
is.
I think I was a bit hungover from the day before, and I can imagine those two.
Then Amber passes a note to her attorney. I guess there's a line of command. Christopher, does that protect her?
Like a vitamin supplement to make me feel better. But
that's the difference. Amber can't pass it to Eve, but he can pass it to her. Is that?
And I kind of decided to throw caution to the wind and just.
But anyway, sorry it's slow because it's 8 hours. It's hard to clip this, but there's a moment where then the judge will step in.
You mentioned that you traveled with Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard.
Getting to the objection.
Lloyd and myself, and maybe one of.
Now they're verifying. I don't know, Chad, if you can help me. What she mentioned something that triggered all this.
You mentioned a name there I don't think we've heard before. Can you just tell the jury quickly who Debbie Lloyd is?
Debbie Lloyd, I guess.
Okay.
And then he doesn't turn on his mic, but he stops. They come over and talk to. There was a big breakdown. This is when the mayhem started. All the judges are like, "What's going on?"
Thanks. All right. Does anybody have any follow-up questions?
Lloyd.
Sorry, I'm trying to get there was audio where I thought there was audio of it.
All right. Does anybody have any follow-up questions?
Ms. Duders, have you been watching?
It doesn't matter. She's been watching clips of witness testimony. All right. You're excused, ma'am. You can have your excuse.
They asked her, "Did you watch clips?" So, Christopher, she was caught and admitted on the stand that she was watching clips and testimony of the trial, and so she's then we instantly stopped. She's then excused. Now that's a huge no-no, right? As a person who's testifying, how did this happen? Would that not be number one? You tell all your witnesses, do not watch, or especially don't mention that you're watching said testimony. Correct?
Yeah, that's really bad. And the jury may be doing the same, but they're not supposed to, and it's enticing, but that was a big screw up for sure.
Right. Well, maybe she just doesn't want to lie, but Christopher, I want to ask that question. There's no way that there's not a jury member watching us right now. Am I crazy in thinking that? I mean, how do we? And jury members, please don't. As much as I want you to, I don't want you to because I don't want to cause any trouble here. But how do you ensure that the jury is really not logging on afterwards, checking YouTube and so on?
Other than sequestering the jury, which rarely happens, locking them up somewhere and taking their phones away. There is no control. There are some people who are very careful about it, and I've seen that when I pick juries that you take these people basically off the street. They don't want to be there, but once they take the oath to serve on a jury, some really find it transformative and embrace this and follow the rules very carefully. Other people, not so much.
And there's probably other people who are just excited for it to be over and don't want to look up more after their day job, I imagine, too.
They may be, but look, honestly, what are the secrets? I mean, everything is coming out in this trial. It's not as tightly controlled as we see other trials where there's this whole universe of damaging information that's being shielded from the jury. I mean, honestly, what are they going to find on the internet that they aren't going to hear anyway?
But I imagine they could see public perception and maybe not want to go against it. Is what I would think. Yeah,
I mean, there have been concerns like that in certain trials where, maybe there would be public unrest, based on the outcome of the verdict. That's not going to happen here. But I hope that these jurors are following the rules because both parties are entitled to a fair trial. And the only way they get a fair trial is if they follow the law as instructed and they only consider the evidence that the court has allowed them to hear. That's the whole reason for a trial. Otherwise, we might as well just do this on Twitter. So hopefully they are following the rules.
Now, and then one more thing I do want to mention, as I've heard from through sources, and I saw on Nick Wallace's Twitter, he just does a fantastic report, but it's kind of hard to find there was someone pulled from the courtroom. I can't find it. There's so many tweets, it's hard to find exactly, but if someone knows exactly the moment I'm looking for, they basically grabbed someone from the courtroom, yanked them out. The officers showed up and yanked it out. It was a Johnny fan. And I've found out throughout, just trying to do my own due diligence, basically what seems to be happening is Team Amber is out there trying to see who's saying negative shit that they can remove Johnny supporters out of the courtroom. And so it's kind of a crazy thing. I mean, apparently, I don't know the details. If anybody does, please send it to me because I'm trying to still learn. But does that surprise you, Christopher, that Team Amber's in there in the court trying to figure out how do we eliminate Johnny's fans from being in the audience? That seems extreme, no?
Well, I mean, look, it's a public proceeding in a public courtroom. So unless there's misconduct happening inside the courtroom, there's no basis to remove them, according to who they're aligned with. So again, I don't know what those rules are in the courtroom. They're obviously allowing people to have laptops. So it's not like in Brittany's case where, there was a ban on devices. So I don't know what the court rules are that this person would have violated to be removed. I just don't know.
I'm trying to find someone had sent me something. I'll look for a while with there. But yeah, does this surprise you, panel, that they're trying to remove Johnny fans? That Amber's looking through social media accounts to try and find whatever nasty or dangerous things are being said to pull out Amber supporters? I'll go to you, Cam. You haven't said anything. You're muted. Oh,
I know. Sorry, I was
sorry.
muted because I was letting you guys talk, so I had to grab my mouse and go over. No, it does surprise me. I mean, I don't think it should be happening, but also with this case, I feel like anything is possible. And so I don't really... I mean, I do feel like there's some bias here going into this case, so it doesn't surprise me a huge amount.
Here it was. Here's apologies for the break. I witnessed a young woman apparently being ejected from the court by 3 deputy sheriffs. She had a discussion with less than 10 yards away, which became a disagreement. She was then led away. This apparently happened to a JD fan yesterday. Trying to find out more from the court information officer. There are very strict rules about what you can do and can't do in the court, which we regularly warned about. However, one friend of the young woman ejected yesterday said it had nothing to do with her behavior in court. So more on that to develop. But yeah, from what I'm gathering, this is now the second Johnny fan that's just being taken out. From what I've heard, speculated, things they've said on Twitter. So that seems crazy. So and I don't know why Amber's team is paying so close attention to who's in the audience to start sniping people out. But that's also currently happening. So yay. The other one more guest that we got to, and Christopher, I'll ask you quick, and then you can split if you need to. I know you. Thank you for giving us your time. Was Dr. Kipper. Now, the sad reality of the Dr. Kipper testimony, which I haven't had a chance to clip today, we're going to go through it, some of it if we can. Here, hold on one second, guys. It was very dry. It was very dry, and Dr. Kipper, who is the doctor we talked about yesterday, Christopher, the what's it called, the 24/7? Here he is, concierge doctor. It seemed very clear he does not want to pick a side. Did you guys get that vibe too, Robin or Kim, when you were watching? It just felt like he was trying to be very in the middle of it all, and not really. He didn't remember anything. He would remember weird specific details, and then I don't recall, which to me is sort of a playing safe answer. And what was very frustrating about his testimony, because he was a doctor who's there when Johnny, lost his thumb. There's audio tape of this. So I don't know if the audio is admissible or what's happening, but they didn't play it, Christopher, and this is a tape deposition, but do you think maybe that could come later? If you have tape footage that we played yesterday, right, of him reacting with the nurse and, Amber's all hysteric saying, I did it. Would you not play the audio to the, witness and say, well, to refresh your memory, does this help you? Or do you think the reason they didn't do that is because maybe it's admissible? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's, they are kind of stuck because this is done here February 22nd, 2021. So over a year ago, somebody took this person's depo by video and they only asked the questions they asked. So they can't go back now and add stuff to it.
That audio is old.
Okay.
They would have had that audio at this point too.
No, I understand that. I'm saying is that whenever they took the depo, they asked the questions they asked, and now playing it over a year later, they can't edit it and add, stuff in. So they're kind of stuck with it. I mean, to me, as a trial lawyer, putting on video deposition testimony is the absolute last resort. If somebody's dead or out of the country or something or beyond subpoena power, fine. So I don't know why they couldn't, import him over to Virginia to testify in person. As we've seen other witnesses testify by video, it's really a terribly dry way of presenting it, and then you're stuck with what you got.
Yeah, but but what you would play the audio is what I'm again conferring there, because
they're going to have to do that later, so they can only do one witness at a time.
I see.
So they can finish with Kipper's playbacked testimony, and then they would have to go separately and present the audio, because they're stuck with what they got.
So this was the audio in question of the medicating her and everything else as she's going awful, and she threw a vodka bottle that severed his finger. We have it all on audio, so it's very frustrating you guys didn't hear it. I'll put the link in there so you can play it. But yeah, so you're saying it's potential they're just going to play it later, go through the deposition first. But it's just weird because they kept asking him, do you remember what, even during this specific moment, would you not then in front of the witness be like, all right, well, we have audio tape. Does this refresh your memory?
Yeah, that's normally what would happen, but the questioner might have liked the I don't remember. I mean, again, I don't know exactly, who was taking his deposition and what their intentions were. Sometimes you just want the witness to say I don't remember, and you're like, okay, great, because now you're not useful, and they don't want to refresh. So these are just tactical decisions lawyers make, or they could have just been sloppy about it and not realized that, hey, here's a good idea, play the tape. Or they might have thought, hey, we're going to bring this guy into trial to testify live, and we'll refresh his recollection there. And then for whatever reason, he's not available.
Didn't show up, right? So they have the tape. That's probably actually a very good answer, realistic answer. There was also a talk about detox, because rather than just play, like, it's really boring, guys. Dr. Kipper, and he's gonna be back tomorrow, so maybe we'll get something more and we'll sum it up then. But there was just a lot of stuff about he was trying to help Johnny with opiates and get the detox, and Amber clearly, I don't think, was helping his detox. Clearly, the antithesis of detox was Amber being around while he's trying to detox. And there was one clip that's there. If you go to our coverage, you can go to 613. Where he says Amber admits Amber did assist to give JD his meds while detoxing. And there were also mentions of traces of cocaine still at that point. And I know a lot of us in the chat, as we were talking about, was she sabotaging the detox, which some toxic people do, to try to like keep them more interesting and keep the fight going nonstop. Let's keep the party going forever. It didn't go there, and I thought maybe they were going to start going there or implying that, but they didn't. And that was my biggest takeaway from the Dr. Kipper case, aside from him just not recalling anything. There was actually a text exchange I want to play. 649. I'm gonna go there. And Christopher, I want to let you go. I know you have a lot to go. Why don't you? Any final thought as I cue that, and then we'll recap without you.
No, it's good. Thanks for having me on, and I'm going to keep following it. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you for always making time for us.
Thanks.
Talk soon.
Hi, Mr. Melcher.
I'm Chris.
Just want to be fair of all of his time. I know he's at spring break with his family as well, but I want to play the text that they sent. There was a moment here where he talks about this text he gets from Johnny, and it was very. Sorry, bear with me, guys. Find the clip. It's at.
Actually, that isn't
6:49.
I was in a hotel around the corner from where the nurses were staying.
Okay, it's coming up.
And in Kipper 5, at Kipper 157, you see this note for 3/7/15 at 11:30.
It's quicker to speed it up than fast forward.
And that he had cut his finger. According to the patient, his assistant and security were
with
on
me.
their way to pick him up. You see that?
Yes.
And whose note is this?
I always have like chipmunks in my head when I do it.
Accurate.
Yes.
Okay. So he's going to share this text that he got from Johnny.
Now, going back to Kipper 9.
So tedious, guys.
Wait a moment.
It was brutal.
I feel as
So
bored as
bad.
Amber does right now, I got to admit. All right, here it comes.
If Amber actually had any feeling.
Right?
By the way, use the Johnny heads. There's a lot new custom emojis. So members, I want to see them.
7 at depth 7790. Here shows a text from Mr. Depp to you on March 7th, 2015 at 5 p.m. And it says, "Hi, fucked man, had another one. I cannot live like this. She is as full of shit as a Christmas goose. I'm done. No more," all capital letters, 3 exclamation points. The constant insults, the demeaning, belittling, most heartbreaking spew that is only released from a malicious, evil, and vindictive cunt. 5 exclamation points. But you know what? 2 question marks, capital letters, far more hurtful than her venomous and degrading, endless, quote, educational ranting, ... 3 question marks. It's her hideously and purposefully hurtful tirades and her goddamn shocking treatment of the man she was meant to love above all, ... Here's the real deal, mate, ... Her obsession with herself, 2 question marks. It is far more important, ... She is, capital letters, so fucking ambitious, 3 Exclamation point. She's so desperate for success and fame, ... That's probably why I was acquired, mate, ... 2 exclamation points.
That's probably why I was acquired. Oh, wait, hold on. Keep going.
Although she has capitalized, hammered me with what a sad old man has been I am, ... 3 dots. Cowan has done me the most cruel of favors, ... I'm so very sad, ... I cut the top of my middle finger off, ... What should I do? Exclamation point, 2 question marks. Except, of course, go to a hospital, ... I'm so embarrassed for jumping into anything with her, ... Capitalize, fuck the world, 3 exclamation points, JD. Do you recall this text from Mr. Depp?
I don't recall the text, but I...
How the fuck do you not recall that text? I mean, I would print that text on my wall.
How can you
I would give that text to
Anyway.
everybody. That is one of the coolest, best texts you could ever get, you liar, Dr. Kipper. What the? How could you not recall that text? It's like an exclusive poem from Mr. Depp. Whether you're a stan or not, that was just so epic. I'm sitting there and I remember like, you don't even recall that, you full of pee. You're as full as the Christmas goose too, I guess. But can you imagine getting that text from Johnny and being like, oh yeah, I don't remember. I guess I get these all the time. Do you buy that?
No.
No.
No, I do remember that. I also love how he signs it at the end. He goes through all that and it's like, JD.
But they wanted what they wanted from that was to have JD. It's in writing, him saying, "Oh, I chopped off the end of my own finger." I think that was their point that they wanted to get out. So I think what we're going to see tomorrow is when Dr. Kipper says that, you know, obviously when he confronts him that this is not a self-inflicted wound, and Johnny Depp admits it. So I think that's what we're going to hear tomorrow.
Correct. He was once again an important piece because he's covering up for Amber, right, and Amber's abuse, right, Alexandra, which is something someone who's with an abuser often does. Correct.
Very often, yeah.
And so even saying to a therapist or whatever these things are happening, you know, agreeable is what he would do. So it doesn't define or prove anything.
Exactly, especially because in one hand, he was still in love with her, as he said, but in the other hand, he was induced guilt all the time. So if you are induced guilt all the time, then you feel responsible for the other person's happiness, which obviously, from the second day of the trial, the first person, the sister, and then every next person was trying to show that he was very caring and he was really trying to make her happy. So that also, you know, you want to protect her image, which he mentioned here that he was obsessed with. So to me, everything clicks perfectly.
Yeah, I was just saying that so many chats are so good. We should put that on a shirt. ... Exclamation point, exclamation point. I need to clip it.
No, just ...
Someone, I need to pull it. Remind me, guys. I need the ... on my board so we can just play ... Johnny Depp's ... needs to be in there. I will, or if isn't there a ... emoji? We'll put that up next. There's now an Isaac emoji. If you didn't see, here it is. I'm trying to add some more custom since we're doing this so epically. So many of you watching. When you want to say something passionately, you can throw the Isaac emoji there. If you want to become a member, hit the join button. It helps us tremendously. I know we saw some members before the show. I'm going to go through that and all the comments at the end in our bonus stream, but I feel like that's a good way to end things for this portion on the clipped show. Thank you everybody for being here. Alexandra DeFrank, as always, wonderful to have you. It's Kim. Go over to youtube.com/It's Kim. She'll give you your Britney fix while I've been so stuck in this trial. Also check out Steph the Alter Nerd over on YouTube as well to get a little bit of sass. What is it? What's the tagline?
Your nerdy alternative true crime on the daily, served with a little bit of sass and gobbiness.
Sass and gobbiness. And then Robin Redbreast, you can find. Come on, start a channel, Robin. Everyone, you got to.
It's coming. It's coming. It's coming.
You can find her on social, Instagram, Robin Redbreast. Okay, do that first. But lots more. And then Christopher Melcher, always a pleasure to have him. Check him out at Christopher Melcher. You can Google him on YouTube and on Twitter. Go support him. So wonderful that we got him back. I wasn't sure if he was going to get it, but we got him so engrossed through our coverage that We got them. So I'm so happy we get more people coming. Don't go anywhere. We are going to clip the next portion. I'm going to stick around for a little bit more, answer your questions, take your comments in, etc. And that part will be for the members if you missed it live. If you're watching live now, you can still watch, so don't go anywhere. This portion will be trimmed because, again, I like to try and keep these tighter for people to try and discover. Please share.